This is Hikari. Hikari is a reverb system that uses procedural randomization. It is based on various uncommon digital reverbs from the 90s and 2000s, along with a great number of twists. This video goes over the basics of how to work with Hikari. A full manual can be found on our website. Hikari also has a built-in tutorial system which can be accessed by clicking the Lese logo and starting it from the menu that pops up. Central to Hikari's interface is the navigator sphere. This displays the active topology based on the XY position. You can use the WASD keys, arrow keys, or the mouse to move around the space. You can also use the Autopilot system to adjust the navigator automatically, which we will go over later. The two knobs on the right are the anomaly and topology controls. These control two aspects of the navigator adjusting the sound. Topology is a continuous, subtle modulation of a bunch of internal variables inside of the reverb algorithm, while anomaly is the degree of processing that occurs when you reach an anomaly position. Anomaly positions are visible on the navigator sphere. There are always 4 anomalies, and whenever a new instance of the plugin is created, or whenever the preset changes, the anomalies are recomputed. Anomalies are largely random for what they do to the sound. There are a lot of different processors that can potentially be used, such as a periodic noise processor, light distortion, and a random deep-C tone synthesizer. Anomalies can also alter the reverb process itself, adjusting the modulation, delay times, and amplitudes. The Fathoms control on the left adjusts the input tone of the sound, with a multi-stage filtering process. Turning the Fathoms value down removes high frequencies, while turning the Fathoms value up removes low frequencies. Once you go into the extremes of either end of the Fathoms control, the control also induces some blurring via a comb filtering system. Let's look over the bottom controls. The first ones here control the pattern of the early reflections. This drop-down offers a number of different early reflection algorithms. The size value adjusts a multiplier that changes the overall delay times of the early reflections. Turn the value down to make them have a very quick onset, and turn the value to the max to increase it. The adjust knob changes the values of both delay times and amplitudes of the early reflections. What the adjustment does specifically varies between algorithms and is detailed in the manual on our website. The detune knob changes the delay times so that they are more out of sync with one another in the left and right channels. The diffuse control adjusts the amount of diffusive reverb that is used in the process. Turning it down to 0 removes it completely. The fine tunings of the diffusive sound are another aspect that is determined by the topology of the navigator. Decay adjusts the overall length of the reverb's feedback. This control is probably one that has the most noticeable effect on the sound when changed. Let's look at the buttons above those knobs. The first section of the buttons is the freezing controls. You can press this button to toggle the reverb between being in a freeze state or not. Additionally, you can do gated freezing with this button. The drop-down here allows you to change the length and number of steps of the pattern, along with the design of the pattern itself. The rate of the pattern is synchronized to the host's BPM. To the right of those buttons is the damping control. You can turn the internal damping on and off, and the drop-down here allows you to adjust the pattern of the damping. Finally, we have the Autopilot system. Autopilot makes the plugin randomly set the navigator to different positions over time. You can open up the drop-down to adjust the speed of the movement as well as the scale of the movement. Beyond that, the two axes of navigation can also be used to modulate parameters directly. Clicking on the X and Y buttons here, and then clicking and dragging on a slider will set the axis value to modulate a parameter. Modulations can also stack on top of one another. The modulation routing can be exited by clicking on the initial button that started it. If the anomaly and topology controls above were turned all the way down, then the navigator is essentially just acting as an XY pad for these two modulations. Now we can look at the bottom controls. These two controls adjust the depth and speed of the periodic modulation. Modulation occurs in a cyclic pattern. The next knob controls the illusion factor. Illusion is a special process that occurs before sound is fed into the reverb. It is a random granular effect that stores audio in a short buffer before playing bits of it back in reverse. Turning it up increases this effect. Additionally, the rate at which sound comes in is not guaranteed. There may be some moments where nothing comes through. The pre-delay controls the length of delay between when dry sound comes in and when it is processed by the reverberator. The width control adjusts the amount of crossfeed that occurs in the processing, where 0% does no crossfeeding and 100% creates a wider stereo effect. Turning this knob to 0 does not necessarily mean that the output will be mono, it just means that there will be no crossfeeding between the two channels. Finally, there is a control for doing dry-wet mixing, which is pretty straightforward. Thank you. There is also a video available going over how some of Hikari's presets sound.